Hey, what's going on? Nick Unsworth here, and I'm a kick-ass business coach, and I'm on an absolute mission to help you find your purpose in life, to help you love what you do for work every single day, to help you be the rock star that you are meant to be, to make more money than you ever thought was possible, and to have more time freedom so you can actually enjoy the life that you're living. I'm here to help you set your life on fire. Hey, what's going on? Nick Unsworth here with Life on Fire, and this is another episode of the Life on Fire Virtual Summit, and I'm out here in Tempe, Arizona with Kevin Thompson.
Good to see you, man.
What's going on, man? And so we're out here for an event with Joe Polish, and we're going to dive into a little bit of that because I think it'd just be awesome to share what's going on here. And what I'd love to do is to just dive right in and to have you just share your background. So, you know, what is it that you did in the very, you know, how'd you get to where you are? How'd you become an entrepreneur? Like, take us way back.
Way back. Well, you know, I've had this entrepreneurial bug since I was in high school.
Okay.
And when I was in high school, I was actually planning on going to college to study business. And at the end of my 10th grade year, my father passed away. And once that happened, and my mom became the sole income earner, college was pretty much off the table.
Okay.
And so once I graduated high school, I spent 4 years in the military, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I figured, well, that's a good way to at least give me some time and do something good. And so I spent 4 years there. And
in what branch?
I was in the Army.
Oh, okay.
And
cool.
I spent 4 years. I had an incredible experience. Traveled around a lot and picked up a lot of skill sets that still serve me well to this day. But after that 4 years, I went back up to Seattle, which is where I'm from. I've been pretty much living there all my life, and was talking with a good friend of mine because back then I had this idea that, I wanted to start a business, but that's going to take some money, so I need to get some money together to start this business.
Sure.
And my friend, he's like, well, Kev, if you want to get money together, go down to Seattle, go down to Fisherman's Terminal, get yourself a job on one of them fishing boats, because those guys, they make a ton of money. And so I did that, and I actually got myself...
This is before the Deadliest Catch was on?
This was before Deadliest Catch, yeah. But I actually fished with some of those guys way back when. Yeah.
Dang.
And so I spent the next 7 years doing that.
Okay.
And I will tell you, that was one of the most grueling jobs that I have ever done in my life.
Wow.
And
what was grueling? I mean, was it just the fish smell? I mean, was it the manual labor piece?
Yeah, the manual labor piece, and the long hours, and the being out at sea, dealing with this boat just rocking and rolling the whole time, and you learn balance really quick in that job.
Yeah.
And but we would work anywhere from 24 to 36 hours straight. Then we'd sleep for 6 hours and get up and do it again.
Wow.
And on a good trip, we could fill the boat in about 2 weeks. On a bad trip, if we weren't catching that much, I've been out at sea working, under those kind of conditions, working those kind of hours, been out there for a month straight before.
Wow.
So that can take its toll on you.
Yeah.
And in 95, we were out fishing in the Bering Sea one night, and we were in one heck of a storm. And we get hit broadside with a huge wall of water that picked me up like I was nothing. And hurled me face first all the way across that boat into the railing. And that was, when the water finally subsided and I figured out what had happened, I was pretty beat up. In fact, this scar is from that accident. Okay. My front teeth got knocked out, but I was like, you know what? You've saved up enough money. You're gonna. And so I finished out my contract, came back to Seattle. Yeah. Next year, I started my very first business.
Isn't it crazy how there's always, it seems like in someone's entrepreneurial journey, there's always like that defining moment. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it took the wave hitting the boat and, knocking your teeth out to say, you know what, I'm going to change it up. Yeah. Now, making that decision, I mean, was that something that you had fear wrapped around as far as getting started on it, or was it?
Back then I didn't know what I didn't know.
Okay.
And so by 1995, I had a little over $200,000 saved up in the bank.
Oh, sweet.
So I'm thinking, man, you are good to go. Yeah. You got plenty of money to start a business. Yeah. What I didn't count on, though, was I got married during that time. Okay. And when I told my wife of my plans, okay, I'm all done fishing in Alaska. Yeah. I'm going to start my own business. She was less than enthused. Okay. And she liked the stability that me fishing in Alaska provided for us. Yeah. And didn't want the instability of me starting a business and going into this unknown
Yeah.
And so long story short, she filed for divorce and left me.
Wow.
So she just didn't want nothing to do it.
That's incredible.
And my first business, I actually started a carpet cleaning business.
And so did you, I mean, were you so headstrong with wanting to start a business and wanting to do that, you know, you weren't willing to try and make it work, or you're just like, you know what, I got to start this thing. It's my...
It was definitely that way because I you know, like I said, I've had this idea of being an entrepreneur, of being a business owner, of doing things on my terms, all of that kind of stuff. I had that for so long that I couldn't imagine not doing this.
Wow.
And of course, at that point, the only other option in my life would have been to go back on the boat. And I just decided, you know what, after 7 years and everything I'd experienced there, I just had enough of that. And I didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, and it definitely hurt. I mean, you know, when my wife left me, that was a jolt for sure.
Oh, yeah.
That was a serious jolt. But yeah, you were right. I just felt so compelled that I had to do this. That, you know, doing anything else just wasn't an option.
And it seems like that mindset is so necessary for someone to have such a desire that you're willing to go through, you know, such challenges such as a divorce to fight for your dream. And so where did that take you? What did you end up diving into?
So I actually, I had met this guy in Seattle. And like, you know, like I said, you know, this is a constantly learning and evolving process. And I was so naive back then. But I had met this guy in Seattle. And he had a carpet cleaning business, and he was doing pretty well, or so I thought. And I thought, well, gosh, if he can do it, then so can I. So I'm getting into the carpet cleaning business. This is going to be the vehicle that makes all my dreams come true. And so I got into that business. I invested $80,000 to open the doors on that business.
So like a franchise model?
No. But I had to buy a van and a big cleaning machine and the supplies and all that. And I ran that business right out of my home. It was me and me only to start with. And I was working, you know, I started running some advertising in the Valpak coupons and local mailers. And I saw what everybody else was doing. And you know, a lot of the other cleaners in the industry were advertising, well, I'll clean, you know, 2 rooms in a hall for $59.95 or $49.95. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'll do it for $39.95, and then I'll scoop up all the business. You know, that was my thought. And so I did. I stayed busy. I stayed busy, but boy, it was not fun. You know, we understand this whole thing of value, and I didn't get that back then. And people who would pay, you know, so I mean, I was working all these. I was working 14, 15, 16 hours a day, 6 and 7 days a week, and I was losing money every time I went out the door, but wasn't smart enough to know it.
Wow.
And during the course of that first year in business, I went through another $120,000 that I invested in advertising, doing whatever I was doing, because I was losing money. But just didn't, I mean, I was just like, well, you just got to figure this out. You know, you got to work harder. You got to do all this stuff. And finally, we had another defining moment where I had got called out on this job, and it was to an apartment complex where this biker guy had rebuilt his Harley in the front living room of his apartment.
Jeez.
And wanted me to clean up the carpets for him. And it was, you should have seen it. It was a disaster. And I'm like, I can't do anything with this. And I was like, what made you call me? And he's like, well, for one, I need the mess cleaned up. But he's like, honestly, it was cheaper to call you than it was to go down to the store and rent a carpet machine and do it myself. And he's like,
wow.
So I figured if you're crazy enough to do that, I'll let you. And I was like, wow. And I was like, I need some help here. And about that time, it was kind of interesting that we're here in Tempe for this thing with Joe Polish, because it was at that time that I saw this article from Joe in a trade magazine for the cleaning industry that you know, was talking about how I can help you with your business. And I'm like, boy, I'll tell you, I need help. I need help big time. And I remember thinking, I was like, gosh, you know, maybe your ex-wife was right. Maybe you don't have what it takes. Maybe you're not cut out to be an entrepreneur. So there was all this doubts going on.
Thoughts and doubts, especially when you're up against challenges like that. You're burning through cash.
And so I Joe had this article in the magazine. He was offering a report, and I ordered that. And I was like, and after going through that information, I was like, man, this guy can help me. I think this guy can help me.
And he's so dang handsome.
Yeah, he is, and he is too. Yeah. And so I ended up getting his marketing kit, and that would have been in 1997.
Wow.
In about July of 97. And long story short, over the next 2.5 years, with his help, we completely transformed that business.
Wow.
And I was in the top, 3-5% of cleaning professionals as far as running a one-truck operation.
Yep.
Got a couple employees. We figured out the marketing. Now all of a sudden, we're not working for hardy guys in the apartments.
Yeah.
We're working in these big, beautiful homes.
Nice.
Where, quite honestly, all we're doing is maintaining carpet. And there's those people will pay far more money for that,
right?
Because there's value there.
And what would you say? So, out of the things that you learned from Joe, what were a couple of the shifts that got you to go from, truly struggling in the business and questioning whether you're even cut out for it, to then catapulting to the top of the industry? So, what were a couple of the lessons or nuggets that you pulled out of that?
So, what Joe started teaching me is what we now know as direct response marketing.
Okay.
That's what he started teaching me, which was something I didn't have a clue about. In fact, when I first was exposed to it through Joe, I'd never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, this is so different than any advertising that I've seen that any of these other carpet cleaners are doing around where I live. They weren't doing this stuff.
Yeah.
I did find one guy doing it. And I did call him up because I was like, oh my gosh, I saw this ad in the phone book, and I was like, this is what Joe's teaching. And so I called this guy up, and I was like, you know Joe Polish? And he's like, yeah, man, Joe Polish is awesome, and he's really helped me with my business.
Yeah.
And so just talking with that guy let me know that, like, wow.
Other people are doing it.
Yeah. This is working. And so that was a big shift. And even at that, though, Joe, because it was so different to me, one of the processes that Joe taught for carpet cleaners is go and give people a free room of cleaning and demonstrate your ability to them, and then do this carpet evaluation thing with them, and then they'll hire you to do more. And it's a great strategy.
It's kind of like giving first and then give them a taste, you know?
Yeah. Give them a taste, give first, and when you provide value and show them like, hey, wow, that looks great, then they're going to want you to do more. And the challenge was I was using the strategy wrong, and I was not getting results. I was, because I was not offering it to the right people.
Yeah.
I was running it in Valpaks, and once again in the apartment complexes, and where people don't own the place, so they're taking taking advantage of my offer for the free room, but then I'm not getting anything else because they just want the free room.
Right.
And so I was getting really frustrated, and so I actually called Joe's office, and back then, Joe's business was nothing like it is now, and I actually got Joe answered the phone and suffered the wrath of Kevin.
Yeah.
And I was furious because I'm like, this stuff's crazy. This don't work, and I'm doing. And he's like, Kev, slow down. He's like, tell me what's going on. And I told him, I said, man, I'm running this 200 square foot special like you advertise, and I'm just getting taken to the cleaners, and nobody's buying anything. And he's like, well, explain what you're doing. And I told him, he's like, and he kind of starts chuckling. He's like, well, Kev, he's like, you're just asking to be abused. He's like, you're making the offer to the wrong people.
Wow.
And he's like, he's like, look, he's like, if you want to start running a really successful business and cleaning carpets and providing services for people of means who value what you have to offer, he's like, the low price thing isn't going to work with them.
Yeah.
Because they're going to look at that and go, what the heck are you going to do for that?
Yeah.
They expect to pay more.
Yeah.
And so that was a big shift that took place in how to structure my offer for the right people, not for everybody, but for the right people.
What's crazy about that is it's so counterintuitive, because you think, if you have a lower priced offer, you're going to bring in more people. And basically, what it sounds like is you just shifted your target market.
Yeah.
And so would you say that you were more on like the premium side, like more of a premium?
We definitely moved to the premium side. Joe, once I figured this out, and like I said, thank God for Joe, because I was not figuring it out on my own.
Yeah.
Once I started figuring it out, and I can still remember that first beautiful home that we pulled up to, and I was like, wow, we got called out to do clean. And she had already told me on the phone, she goes, yeah, I called because of your free room offer, but we just need the whole place cleaned.
Yeah.
And using the other strategies.
And you're like, really? Well, I can do that.
Yeah. And then when we get there, I'm looking at the carpet, and like visually, it doesn't even look like it needs to be cleaned, unlike the Harvey guy's place. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it just looked great, and so it was like maintenance cleaning for somebody who just wanted to take care of their carpeting investment.
Yeah.
And get the longest life from it. And so it's all, and there's such a pleasure to work with that kind of people, and they're so thankful for what you do, and they're long-term clients.
Yeah.
And like, Joe showed me how to do all this stuff.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you make that shift. It's like the quality of your life and the revenues and everything follows, and so what I'm pulling out is just basically, I mean, you went through some major tough times, but you were so committed to your dream and so committed to yourself that you forged through, had crazy challenges. And then what I love is that you got mentorship. Yeah. That's one thing that's kind of a recurring theme here on the summit, is having that moment where you just said, you know what, you had to find someone, and it sounds like Joe kind of found you with the ad, and then shifting to target market. So I love it. I mean, it's just so. From that situation and getting to the top of the industry, how did you transition to what you're doing now? How did that happen? Because you're in a whole new world now, and it's super exciting. You guys are going to love what Kevin does, and it's just so awesome.
Once I started figuring stuff out, what I discovered was that I loved the marketing. Mm-hmm. I did not love owning a carpet cleaning business.
Right. Okay.
And it was. Even when it was successful, I was still working a lot of hours. I was still working weekends and stuff. I was making a great income by all standards, but I was like, you know what? I want something different than this. And this would have been about in 1999. I was in my office on a Sunday doing end of month book work. Yep. And I just, in that morning, I just kind of lost it, because I was like, this is so ridiculous, because here I am in my office on a Sunday morning when I should be at home with my family. I'm now remarried. I've got a wife. I've got 7 children.
7 kids.
From 28 all the way down to 3.
Whoa, no way. And, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so, we met, and she'd been a single mom for 10 years, raising 4 kids. And now those kids are all just like my own. It's been
awesome.
Such an incredible experience. But I was like, in my office, and when I should have been at home with the family, and I was just like, this is completely crazy, because even though I had reached the top of this industry as far as like income wise, I didn't feel successful. And so in that moment, for the first time ever, I actually took out a piece of paper. I'm like, well, what the heck do you really want? Because what you've got is not what you want.
Yeah, the plan you created and ran with, it's not going to the same direction of what you want.
Yeah. And so I took out a piece of paper. I started writing a few things down, and some of them, what's in there, I still have that piece of paper.
No way, day. That's awesome.
I still have that, and some of the things I wrote down was that I didn't want to work weekends. I didn't want to work more than 40 hours a week. I wanted to have a business that I just would allow me to do my very best work. Yep. And I knew that was not in the carpet cleaning industry. And I wanted to live the life of a millionaire. I mean, those are some of the things that I wrote down. Yeah. And at least now, for the first time ever, I actually had an idea of what I wanted and where I wanted to go. And prior to that, I hadn't even written anything down. I'm just like,
you were just going. Yeah.
And so I had this list, and it was later that year that I had went to a Dan Kennedy seminar, and I actually met Dan through Joe. Okay. And I was at this seminar. I met these 2 other guys there by the name of Perry Marshall and Yannick Silver. Okay. Yep. And those 2 guys were doing some pretty cool stuff online way back then. And I was like, gosh, I was looking at them, what they were doing. I was like, maybe there's something here for me. And so I started learning from them. I started, in fact, Yannick had a product out that I got his product, and I started working with him a little bit, started talking with Perry a little bit, and I was like, let me just have a little bit of fun with this. And so I took what I knew from the cleaning industry, and in doing a little bit of research, I found that there were people online looking for how to deal with a mold problem in their home.
Yeah.
I mean, not an exciting topic.
Yeah.
Unless you got a mold problem, then you want
Yeah.
some help. And I'm
It's a problem,
you know,
problem with the solution.
yeah. And that's what that's part of what I did in my cleaning and restoration business. And so I put up this little website called getmoldsolutions.com, and within less than a year, we were making $10,000 to $12,000 a month with that website. We were selling mold test kits, mold cleaning product.
Wow.
I had created an information product called the Wipeout Mold System, and just telling people what to do, how to deal with this situation.
And that was all online?
It was all online, 100% online.
Cool. And like traffic from the ranking on Google and things like that?
That's exactly what it was, from Google. And Perry Marshall kind of taught me how to do that. And back then, you could get, I mean, my gosh, when that Google AdWords platform came out, in the beginning, you could get visitors for 5 cents a piece. Back then. And even when as more people found out, for a long time, I mean, even today, you can still use that platform effectively. And now you've got even more platforms. I mean, Facebook wasn't around back then. You got all this stuff that's available now that wasn't back then. And but we built that website up, and then. So now I had this little side business going that was once it was up and running, it was pretty simple.
And the products, I mean, were those just affiliate products, or did you physically?
We didn't stock anything.
Wow, that's cool.
I had somebody lined up to ship out products.
So you just created the traffic and did the marketing, and then all the other pieces came together and earned the leveraged $12K a month.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So that was a whole different experience than running.
That's that millionaire's lifestyle right there.
Yeah. And then in 2003, Joe invited me to come down to Phoenix to speak at his big annual event for the cleaning and restoration industry, to show him what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I'd never done anything like that, never spoke in public before, but I was like, I was excited to show him.
Yeah.
And so I spoke for about, 60 minutes, and afterwards I was mobbed at the back of the room. People going, hey, Kev, can you help me?
You do that,
Yeah. And Joe was like, Kevin, he's like, you need to document what you do and how you do it, and I'm going to invite you back next year, and you give these people what they want. And so I did that and came back next year, and I ended up selling $35,000 worth of my course.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that's a whole lot more money than I make in cleaning carpets. And I picked up this first group of clients and started working with them, and found that I really loved teaching them the marketing stuff that I figured out. And so the following year in 2004, April 19th of 2004, I sold my cleaning business and I moved into this full time.
Nice.
And I've been doing it ever since. And so since, that's been 11 years. I don't know how many thousands of copies of that product we've sold, and it's been updated. Updated 9 times in that time. But we've sold thousands and thousands of copies.
And so that product is helping someone to build a website. Describe a little bit about what that product is.
So what that product is my how I do what I do.
Yeah.
And so there's all kinds of people teaching how to make money online and all that. And all I'm doing is teaching my version. This is what I do.
Yeah.
And what I've found is people just, because there's a lot of, for lack of a better word, crap out there.
Yeah.
And people just really appreciate someone who's just authentic.
Genuine. Yeah.
And just says, hey, you know what? This is what I know. And if you'd like me to help you, I'm happy to do that. And here's how we can do that. Here's how we can have this relationship and keep it moving forward. And by the same token, if there's something that I don't know, I don't have a problem saying that either. There's a lot of people who are
it's going to BS around it, and
they want to try and expound on something that they have nothing, they know nothing about, and people can recognize that. They can recognize when they're being fed a line. And there's nothing wrong with saying I don't know, but I can find the answer for you, and now I've got such a big network of people.
You can find it anywhere.
I mean, it's easy to find the answer, and you still get to be the hero.
You still get
because
credit.
You found the answer for them, or you referred them to somebody, or whatever.
And so where do you spend your time now? So you've got some information products teaching people how to do what you do, and what would you say, where you spend your time, what you focus on now?
So I started doing this in 2003, and then in 2007. Well, and quite honestly, what I did with Joe, I didn't even realize it, but when Joe invited me to speak at his event in 2003, and then we sold $35,000 worth of my course, the first time ever, And because that was Joe's event, I gave him half the money.
Sure.
And I was happy to do it because like I wouldn't have picked up those clients if it wouldn't have been for me going to his event where he had already had them all assembled.
Yep.
You know? And so without even really knowing or understanding it, what I'd done is I'd partnered, I'd collaborated, I'd just done what's called a joint venture with Joe.
Yeah.
But yet we didn't have no paperwork or nothing. He just said, hey, come and speak, and like, you know, he's like, hey, this is the standard thing, and this is what we do. I'm like, hey, fine by me, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't do another project like that until 2007, when I had ran into another guy that I know. His name's Mike Crow, and he what Joe was doing at the time for carpet cleaners, Mike was doing for home inspectors. He was teaching home inspectors how to better market themselves.
Sure.
And he knew what I was doing, and he was like, Kevin, you know what? We should introduce you to my home inspectors. And I'm like, all right. And so he sent out a few emails to his audience. We hosted this event, and I did my presentation again and offered them my product. Said, hey, this makes sense. If this resonates, if you feel like I can help you, here's how we can keep this relationship moving forward. And we made about $48,000 in sales on that.
Right.
And I was just like, wow. That and beyond the money that we made, it was just such a pleasure working with Mike. Just like it was such a pleasure working with Joe.
Yeah.
And with Mike, you know, that was my first collaborative project I'd done like that. And my product is sold at either 2 or 3 installments of $397.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, you know what? Let me just overnight Mike a check based on these first round of installments that came in. And if we get any returns or whatever, I'll just take it out of the second or third checks I'll be sending. So I overnighted him a check. And the next day he calls me just raving about this check. And he's like, Kevin, I've done so many collaborative projects, and nobody has ever overnighted me a check. And he's like, I just wanted to let you know how awesome that was. And I was like, all right. So I kind of make a mental note. Okay, overnighting the check is a good thing. So I've just always done that. Yeah. And since that experience with Mike, after having that experience, I was like, wow, I want to do a lot more like that. I want to partner. I want to collaborate. I want to start doing this a lot more. And I will tell you, it didn't all come easy. I mean, for the next 3 years, I really struggled trying to figure out how to make this happen. And finally, in it would have been 2007, 8, so January of 2011 is when we really figured it out. Yeah. And it was when I was doing my end of year books with my accountant, and because when you do these projects like this, when I do a project with Mike, I have to give a 1099 at the end of the year. Well, that year I had done 36 collaborative projects, and yet 8 of them produced over 80% of the revenue that I made that year, while the other 28 produced less than 20%. Wow. And my accountant was like, pointing this out to me, and he's like, Kevin, if you just did a few more like these, big guy, you don't need all these. Yeah. And I'm like, I still, like, I didn't know what I didn't know. I'm like, what makes these 8 so different than all these other ones? And so I started reaching out to those guys. I mean, they were friends of mine. I partnered with them. And I'm like, just started finding information out. And what I figured out was there was some key things that set them apart. Yeah. And first of all, they had a good-sized audience, obviously. Yeah. They had a great relationship with that audience, so that when they make a recommendation, people jump right on it. And then the other thing that was true of the people is that there was already existing buyers of something in that audience. They had already bought from that person. A lot, not everybody, but a lot of them had. Yeah. And as you and I know, a buyer is a buyer is a buyer. And if if you and I have a relationship, we look at Joe. We both got a business relationship with Joe. Yeah. Well, when Joe makes a recommendation to us for something that's going to help us, we're going to check it out. We're going to check it out. Yeah. Because we trust Joe. We trust his recommendation. And I'm a really good client. I'm a really good buyer. If you can give me value, I got no problem investing. Yeah. And that's true. And I figured that out. And so once I figured this out, as far as who these partners was, now I was able to intentionally attract more people like them. Right. And so over these last 7 years, I've built my business solely by partnering, collaborating, doing joint ventures with other people who have been able to help me get my message out there in a big way.
So I think what's cool is that on that topic, I feel like there's quite a few marketing strategies that we're, talking about and coming up with on the virtual summit. And, some are paid traffic, some are organic, and there's so many different ways to skin the cat. But what I like about your model is it has to do with relationships, and it has to do with, it's endorsed traffic, and it's very efficient money-wise and even time-wise. And what are a couple tips that you would give for someone that wants to establish a joint venture, relationship with someone? How do you go about doing that?
Okay. So I will tell you, so people, what I term A-list entrepreneurs, people who have a big reach and a big audience and are in a position to help people like you and I. They are approached all the time by people saying, "Hey, can you promote me?
Can you just promote my stuff?"
Yeah. I mean, they hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And so they completely tune that messaging out. But what I will tell you is that no matter how successful somebody is, no matter how big of a business they run, what most people feel is completely underappreciated. And I was actually at an event last week where the gentleman hosting the event interviewed Jay Abraham on stage at this event, and he asked Jay, Jay, what is the thing that you, like, over all your years of doing what you do, what's the thing that you just value most? And now here's a guy, Jay, who's so successful, made billions of dollars for him and his clients. And his answer to this question was, Jay, you know what? I just like it when people tell me that they appreciate me for the role that I've played in helping them out.
Yeah.
Beyond the money, I just saying, hey, thank you. I really appreciate it.
That's what drives us a lot of times, entrepreneurs, to be recognized or appreciated for the work that you're doing,
So what I teach people is this concept of active appreciation. And so like, for example, to be thankful or to be grateful, it implies that something good had to have happened for us or to us or what have you in order for us to be grateful, to be thankful, to show gratefulness. And a lot of times we don't necessarily have complete control over that. But what we do have complete control over is this thing called active appreciation. And like I said, most people feel completely underappreciated. And so for me, what I do, and I didn't figure this out myself. In fact, I can't remember the last time I had an original idea. This process was taught to me by a good friend, Jesse Elder. And he challenged me. He's like, when we were talking about this, he challenged me. He's like, Kevin, what I want you to do is, you've got a lot of people in your life that that like you, all this stuff. What I want you to do is send out some text messages and just don't ask them for anything. Just let them know something that you genuinely appreciate about them, and just put it out there, and do that with 10, 15, 20 people. And don't ask for anything in return. Don't even ask for a response. Just put it out there and watch what happens. And I had such an incredible experience with that. And some people I heard back from right away within minutes. Other people I heard back later that day. Other people, it might have taken a few days. I know this one gal that I reached out to, I didn't hear from her for almost 2 weeks. But because apparently she was traveling and what have you, and didn't have access to her phone. But when she did respond to me, her simple response was, "OMG, Kevin, you made me cry. That was exactly what I needed to hear." Wow.
That's crazy.
And this is a gal who's a very influential gal. And not only that, I mean, it's just such an incredible experience. So this is a process that I now teach, and I tell other people, I say, try this, see what happens, because this whole concept of active appreciation, even before Jesse explained it to me, it's like with Joe, when I first spoke at his event all the way back in 2003, and we did we did 35,000 in sales. I was so appreciative to Joe. I didn't understand this concept of active appreciation. That was just who I was. And I was just, wow, I was so thankful, and I be sure to let Joe know that, and I did that with all people in my life. But now that I understand it better, thanks to Jesse, now I can use this in a completely different way. And what I will challenge people to, when you do this
is great.
Don't look at it as a strategy. It's not a strategy. And if you look at it that way, you got the wrong intention. Because it's not a strategy. So like if you're, if you've been trying to find people to promote, you're saying, hey, can you promote me, come here, and you're not getting results, and now you say, well, let me try this active appreciation thing. I mean, it's not about a strategy, it's about just being this way. Yeah. And just
genuinely caring about others and being that way and putting that out there, making their day. Yeah.
And understanding it's not about us, it's about them. Mm-hmm. And when people find out that you are just this way, they want to collaborate with you. They want to help you. They want to be involved in you just because they like you. Yeah.
And that therein lies the power in the relationship. It's just in how you make them feel. And I mean, that was emitted from the stage when you were, on the stage at the Genius Network annual event. I mean, and it's no surprise that you got swamped afterwards, because you just generously gave, what you knew and your tips and what you have. But there's just a genuineness about you, where people can see that, they can get that, and I feel like, it's not common in business. People have egos, and it's, and I feel like you stand out, and it's just so cool to see that, and I love that tip, and I want to challenge every single one of you to do that. I mean, let's make that a challenge from this, this episode here. Is let's choose. I mean, should we call it 10 or 15?
Let's go for 15.
Let's go 15. All right. So we're going to do 15 people. The challenge is going to be, literally after, you're done watching this, we're going to wrap up in just a minute. Literally take 15 people and send them, tell them why you appreciate them, and share that gratitude up, and just see what happens.
Yeah, watch what happens. You're going to have an incredible experience. That I will promise.
I love it. And so we appreciate you. And so what can we do to get in touch with you? I'd love for you to share if you have, some strategies, or if you've got, we call it a lead magnet, or, a free gift or something of that nature, or a book. But we'd love to let everyone know how they can get more access to you.
Sure. Well, we've got a website at thejvjedi.com. Okay. And on that, I hosted an event not too long ago, and they can get the recording of that event where I cover this what we just talked about, plus a lot more. Okay. And I'll walk you through some more. So once you have captured somebody's attention, now how do you direct that? And you do it in a way that, like, and this is you mentioned people got egos and all that, and like we are innately, like, built to want to take care of ourselves, to get what we need, to take care of ourselves, and all that, and so this idea of putting somebody else first, and putting your focus on them and what we can do to help them get to their goals. And I'm going to show you how to do that. If you decide you want to pick up the recording, so I'll show people how to do that. Cool. And do it in a way that just resonates with people in such a powerful way, and opens the door for you to now partner, collaborate, and just, who knows what can happen and what can come from this kind of a conversation. And what I'll challenge people to do is, when you start doing this and you start finding yourself in these engaging conversations now, don't put stipulations on it, like that I want this to happen. Sure. That I want, I want to have this conversation, but really what I want to happen is I want them to promote me and help me do my thing. And I never do that when I have a conversation with someone. Sure. Because if I do that, I'm limiting myself to what could
just that
happen.
One thing. Yeah.
And if I just let it be, and just, my goal is every time I'm having a conversation like this with somebody, is that I just know it's going to be an incredible conversation, and no matter what happens, something really good is going to come from it. Okay. And by not limiting myself, I will tell you that some amazing
more things come back
that I could have never pictured, that I could have never imagined in the past before it happened. But because I was just open to say, I'm going to make some great things happen, and I'm going to focus on this person and how I might be able to help them, and then together we'll figure out how to make that happen. And incredible.
It's a big shift. I mean, it's so hard when we're in our businesses. I feel like we always want to think selfishly, and really you're redirecting all that attention onto someone else, and then reaping all the rewards later.
You do. You get to reap all the rewards.
That millionaire lifestyle. And that's why we have you here is, seeing you on stage and getting to know you, and you've got a magnetic pull for people around you. And I think it's such an important lesson for everyone to learn and to do this challenge, is because that's how you truly become a master at networking. That's how you can grow a business without having to struggle so much on the marketing, is you have these joint venture relationships. And what was the URL again for the course?
thejvjedi.com.
Okay, so thejvjedi.com. We're a little roasty toasty out here in Tempe, Arizona. We're gonna run. I'm gonna go catch up with Joe's team for a minute, and I'm so fired up to. It's my first breakout event here at the with Joe Polish. Yeah. So thank you so much for everything, man. Definitely pleasure. Love everything you shared here today. And guys, go grab the free offer from Kevin, and looking forward to catching up with you on the next session. All right, see you guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
I'm here to help you set your life on fire.